Hello. Before I proceed any further, I want to show you this table. The table is from the freshest and the latest report by NDIA, which is National Defense Industry Association, and the report is called Vital Signs 2022, The Health and Readiness of the Defense Industrial Base. I want to point out to you, this is not about weapons. This is essentially about military economy of the United States. And the main part which should be looked at very attentively is not the fact that some things change and improve over the time, others don't improve and actually get worse and deteriorate quite greatly, to put it mildly. But it's the fact that since 2019, the line, which you can see, the overall health and readiness, which reflects the overall state of the defense industry, shows a very disturbing for the United States trend. And for the first time, the defense industry received their failing grade. Basically, it's 69. Anything below 70 is considered to be a failing grade. But this is not just that thing. You can also take a look at the most important graph, which is productive capacity and search readiness, and you see a dramatic, I would say just absolutely stunning development in which the productive capacity and search readiness drop precipitously. And the issue here is not just COVID-19. No, everybody got COVID-19, but if you look, for example, at Russia or China, military expansion in terms of new equipment, new technologies have been basically procured and, was continuing pretty much unabated with some minor hiccups. But here we have depends, of course, on how the whole thing is scored. Look at this drop from 80 in 2019 to 67 in 2020 to 52 in 2021, when pretty much the consequences of the COVID-19 lockdowns have been overcome. This trend is remarkable in a sense that it reflects the state of the overall US economy, not to mention this little teeny-weeny thingy which is called supply chain, and as you can see yourself, it drops precipitously too, yet again, after some resurgence in 2020. And that is the overall state of the American economy today, not to mention the fact that US industry, US military-industrial complex cannot produce anymore some crucial weapon systems, such as new tanks, and cannot design them. And the reasons for them are multiple. But that picture is very important in the overall illustration, if you want, of the trends basically dominating the Western world in general, in United States in particular. And we'll talk about this in detail further, because it is all related to the what is called continuous invasion of Russia. I don't know, what is it now, the 3 months? Russia continuously invades Ukraine now 3 months. It has everything to do with it, albeit it is not the only factor. I like this kind of tables because they allow you to judge things in a real serious framework, which is of course the framework of the real economy, because however destructive and however unpleasant military-industrial complex could be, we shouldn't forget that very often military-industrial complex is precisely the industry, or if you want to say it this way, frame it this way, collection of industries, which also drive the progress, technological progress, including in the civilian field. Effectively, prior to the end of the 20th century, it was military and, intelligence which was driving this progress. Even in such things, and if you look, recall penicillin, for example, it was the war which drove the biologists and pharmaceuticals people and to research and develop the antibiotics, basically. So here it is. The trend is clear. The trend is very disturbing for the United States, and as I already stated, when you cannot design your tank because you don't have cadres anymore. You have like 2 generations of the designers who are gone now. And this is not easy to develop it. You have the young people, even with the STEM education, who come in on board, if they come in on board, and many of them not necessarily that talented, they just have the degrees, whatever the bachelor degrees in all kinds of engineering, but you don't have anymore this tribal knowledge which exists within big and small corporations in terms of how things done. And when you get to the design of things like aircraft, tanks, or even ships, guess what? You lose the competence, and even if you have industry, granted it still operates properly, you end up with the same as the U.S. Navy ended up with the new frigate. You get the Fincantieri's, that means Italian design, Italian variation of European frame frigate, because you cannot develop it anymore. It took few years for the United States Navy to recognize we cannot build frigates anymore. Yes, that's how it happens. And then you indeed lose competences. Granted, of course, that a new frigate Fincantieri will be built on Fincantieri's shipyards in the United States. So that's the trend. That's another thing. That's another spike in the, so to speak, or if you wish, needle into the butt of the United States right now, which drives it to basically declaring Russians, training and, operating within their bases near Rostov and Voronezh. And you already saw my previous video about these 2 cities, with especially Rostov being the headquarters and for the Southern Military District, and that is called in U.S. media and among U.S., so to speak, experts, quote unquote, there are not very many, honestly, and they call it basically a Russian amassing troops along the Russian-Ukrainian border. Yes, Rostov is like 100 kilometers from Russian-Ukrainian border. Voronezh is not much further, but it's not that much. So any movement or any motion of Russian armed forces is met with panic, but also with a deliberate campaign of hysteria, which now reached that point that the United States literally has no way out without losing face. Well, there is a way out of sorts if, of course, Ukraine not just declares and drops its desire to join NATO, despite the fact that NATO itself, many of them say, yeah, it's not for now, we don't want to do this now. No, Ukraine has to change its constitution and remove this article, the clause, for joining NATO. I mean, for starters, what kind of constitution is that? It's basically a joke. But, hey, remove that, and after that, Ukraine will be left alone in a sense that Russia doesn't want to invade it, quote unquote, now. But as long as, and if further down the road, as I already stated, I'm not the proponent of many Ukrainians, not all, being brotherly people to Russia. Ukrainian nation, Ukrainian political nation did happen. It did coalesce into something. It is an unpleasant nation, and Ukraine as a country is the poorest country in Europe now. You have to really try hard to beat Moldova on the way down, but they did. They accomplished that. And in this particular case, there are some parts of Ukraine, is primarily on the east, who consider themselves, at least in some way, related to Russians, ethnically and culturally. Well, it's not a majority anymore. So Ukraine, especially as it exists in central and western Ukraine, it's a separate nation. So this separate nation, in order for it to continue. It's agony. It's not, oh, existence, if you wish, but hey, they like it. So, and if they want to continue that, they have to remove their commitment to joining NATO. Of course, with NATO countries saying that they're not going to do it either. And they will be left alone in the sense that Russia doesn't care invading them. Why? And again, that's the whole thing. And one of the moments I want to constantly reiterate, and what has emerged in the last 3 months, is a complete bankruptcy. It is ideological bankruptcy, it is professional expert bankruptcy of the Western media. First, I don't think so there are many people, if any, in, let's say, Western media, mainstream media, who really understand what is going on, because they're simply that incompetent. So when you take the average journal from BBC or CNN, most of them are morons. They have bachelor's degree in what amounts to propaganda, because journalism, and especially strategic type things there, which they study, are propaganda mostly. They don't have any particular knowledge or skills to really grab their or wrap their brains around what is going on. And as anybody in the West, they live on the leaks and whatever the fodder, let's say CIA or some other organization provides to them, and they spread this bullshit nonstop, in working essentially as the government organs of propaganda in the United States or Britain. I mean, come on, there is no free press. It never was. I mean, if I pay somebody, most of them are whores anyway, so if I tell them that, they have to basically tell about themselves that they are, pedophiles, they will tell it, as long as I pay money to them. So that's how it operates, I mean, in the West. And that is why you're not going to get direct reporting or honest reporting, bar some alternative medias or people of scale like Matt Lee, famous, and Matt Lee, who does ask necessary questions and touches people, and evidently he was the main reason for Ned Price's recent emotional breakdown, when he started to question him about the validity of the so-called intelligence, quote unquote, which of course in the West and especially in the United States today is a euphemism for a bullshit, and providing the pretext for either invasion or some kind of things of this nature to kill people, many people, and get hands on whatever the valuables are in one or another country. So that's the situation. And in this particular case, I want to stress again, and please don't misinterpret me as I'm putting here the rosy eyeglasses and try to pretend that everything is, tip-top and topsy-turvy or what have you. No. But the last vestiges of the real competence and people who actually can calculate and know a thing or two about the military balance, about economy, real economy, and about this continuous Russian invasion, quote unquote, which, these are people in United States military, because that goes with the territory. And no matter how bad situation with the US military today, the only people who understand and can grasp the situation wholly are people with the serious military education and experience. That is why, remarkably, the most vocal proponents of the diplomacy and people who express their huge doubts, professional doubts about the validity of what is being developed and delivered to the unsuspecting US public are people of the military profession. We can talk about, obviously, Douglas MacGregor, we can talk about Daniel Davis, even Andrew Bacevich, despite the fact that his Quincy Institute exists, including on Soros donations. These are people who want to try to be realistic, and they understand what is going on. And of course, there is not going to be any war between Russia and United States. United States probably, if you want the forecasts, once it understands that that's it, there is no other way out. Of course, there's always a way out, like in Afghanistan, but can you imagine the second Afghanistan in terms of reputation being blown out, whatever is left of the reputation? So I, at this stage, lean more towards some kind of the false flag. What kind of this false flag will be, I don't know really. But again, as many people, and there is a full consensus now in Russia of what I've been writing for years, and many people were suspecting, I mean, from the get-go, from the inception of the Ukrainian crisis, it was all about Europe and European Union. It was all about putting the European poodles in appropriate position and making them do what United States wants them to do. So in this case, yes, whatever happens to Ukraine, nobody really cares in the United States, and all this demagoguery about democracy and free choice, and it's just complete bullshit. But obviously, the false flag needs to terrify European members of European Union and NATO by default, in pointing out, you see, those, evil Ruskies, just get together, guys, around us and do what we tell you to do, because indeed, as I am on record again, and I will continue to repeat it, a lot what is happening in Europe today in terms including of Russian, or rather anti-Russian attitudes, they are genuine articles. Make no mistake about it. While there are some segments of European population who are not hostile to Russia, and there are some narrow segments and strata who even love Russia, majority, I don't know what is this majority, maybe 60, maybe 65%, you will never be able to exactly identify the size of this population, but majority of European population is Russophobic. It hates Russia, it is afraid of Russia, yet no matter what Russia does, they will continue to do so. And that is why United States has good chances, or at least it thinks it has a good chances, to basically mobilize this part, and especially through its new acquired poodles from Eastern Europe, like Poland, Czech Republic, and what have you, Romania, and they will do the job. And they are also very easy, basically valuable, so if you want, possessions to sacrifice if things really go badly. But in terms of United States willing to control Europe, at this stage, yes, the United States does have chances on that. They're fairly good chances, because indeed, most overwhelming majority of the European political elites and majority of the European, Western European population, they are Russophobic and they are afraid of Russia indeed. So in this particular case, this is what we have as the framework. Plus, as I already stated, and I already showed you in the beginning, by showing this just yet another table, yet another evidence of the continuous decline, United States needs Russia to get involved in something, because Europe is the last chance for the United States to at least retain some kind of the foothold in gigantic Eurasian land mass and emerging colossal market and colossal power which dwarfs the United States by order of magnitude. And so that's what is this all about. Now, as I already laughed at, and in my blog, Russia probably has to open now the cottage industry of providing asylums for the UKIP residents, and obviously the next guy who is a good candidate to end up in Rostov-on-Don is Mr. Zelensky, who is the dead man walking right now. And he understands he doesn't command Ukraine, he doesn't command anything, he doesn't control anything. So, and we will have yet wait and see what, if it happens, hopefully not, but chances are, probability is high, that there will be some false flag. But Russia is ready for any development of the situation. And Maria Zakharova was today on record asking Bloomberg, so what are we going to do? Bloomberg promised that, yeah, today Russia has to invade. They have the information. And so, yeah, at this stage, you have to be a complete moron to trust US media, US mainstream media, or European mainstream media. But that it is what it is. I mean, we have the people who are both butthurt and who are morons. I mean, indeed, there are very few people who can start asking proper questions, and even when they ask those questions, unless the whole thing implodes on itself that everybody sees it, then we'll have to wait and see. I don't think so we're going into the World War III. United States doesn't have forces in Europe to fight a serious war to start with, just conventional war. So Ukraine has to get ready to be sacrificed, and then I don't think so Russia will invade. What for? And as I already stated, nobody wants Ukraine in Russia. That's the main thing. And this is kind of on the run, some thoughts which I had today, and I needed to share it with you guys. And yes, read the report of this association, of the National Defense Industries Association. It's very easy to find. I will place it below in my video, in link below in this below this video, and I can tell you this tells a huge story. And again, it's not about weapons. It's not about weapons capabilities. Here, United States already lost the arms race, and by a mile. It's also about the state of not just military industry. It is about the state of the US economy as a whole, because it reflects the trend, it goes in parallel with it, and when you understand, as many people did, and I wrote a few books on that, that when you have industry in the state, which it is today, so yeah, there is no talk about being the hegemon, you know, or the finest fighting force of the greatest nation, whichever. It's basically, you know, it's going down the drain big time. So here it is. That's what I wanted to talk to you about today. And as always, do not forget to subscribe. Do not forget to like if you like it. And of course, do not forget to support me on Patreon. I would really appreciate your support, and that allows me to continue to do what I'm doing right now, providing these videos. So all the best for you guys, and have a safe and nice week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.